The EU deforestation regulation is, in fact, it's a proposal for a regulation. The process for developing the regulation started in 2021. Since then, the European Council, the Council for the European Union, and the European Parliament have developed separate versions of the regulation. The process now is for all three entities, if you like, of the European Union to discuss and negotiate together in order to come up with one final version, agreed version of the regulation. That's called the tripartite discussions or negotiations, and we are hoping that, well, that process has started now, and we are hoping that it will conclude with an agreed version, perhaps right at the end of 2022 or in the first quarter of 2023. Well, the objective of the regulation is twofold. It's really to minimize the consumption of wood products associated with deforestation and degradation of forests. I say wood products, in fact, wood products are one of a number of commodities to which this regulation applies. But as we're here in the FSC GA, we can talk about wood products, but also there is a proposal to include rubber as well. The regulation applies to organizations, commercial enterprises, which are either placing these products on the EU market. Some of them may be importing from outside into the EU, but it also applies, and this is a change from the EU timber regulation, it applies to EU-based organizations which are exporting these products or products containing wood outside of the European Union. The EU deforestation regulation does contemplate that operators, organizations subject to these regulations may use certification schemes as a means to help them with the mitigation of risks, or to demonstrate that their sources are low risk, or that the risks that were present within those supply chains have been mitigated. However, the regulation is clear. Certification is not a green lane, and organizations must do due diligence even on those certified supplies. We would agree that FSC certification is the gold standard of certification schemes for forest products, and the alignment of the FSC system and the FSC certification standards with the EU timber regulation, which will be replaced by the EU deforestation regulation, has been important for the FSC system, particularly for certificate holders, to demonstrate the compliance of their wood products with the EU timber regulation. So it is our desire, if you like, to see that FSC is also working to ensure it's as aligned as it can be with the new regulation. What we've heard in, I think, different fora at the FSC General Assembly is that, FSC understands that certification is not a green lane, and they, as an organization, they have not been campaigning in order to have that status. And they also recognize that operators and other organizations subject to these types of regulation are always required to do due diligence. I guess what we as Preferred by Nature are keen to see is that, again, FSC maintains its gold standard and its relevance as a really important tool to certificate holders to demonstrate conformance, or as much conformance as possible with these regulations. It's something that a lot of certificate holders value, and we would like to see that happening with the new EU deforestation regulation, as really very much was the case for the EU timber regulation. There are different elements of the proposed EU deforestation regulation which probably FSC already meets or comes close to meeting, or their standards have some important, their standards cover those particular elements of the legislative requirements or the requirements of the regulation. However, there are some aspects which I think there's FSC is moving in the right direction, but there's probably still a significant amount of work to do. Yeah, well, Preferred by Nature, in fact, is already engaging with many organizations, both within the forest sector, the timber sector, but across all of those other commodities that are likely to be subject to this regulation also. These organizations, I guess, for the most part, they're approaching us looking for guidance on how to begin to prepare for the regulations, even though they have not been approved and come into force yet. They want to accelerate their learning, ensure that they're moving in the right direction, and understand what they probably will need to be doing